Hey friends, welcome back to Crusty TV, where we make baits and paint lures. And today we're going to make a bait. All right, so I'm going to keep this up on the screen for a few minutes, so I don't have to go through a lot of these things. And you'll see when we use all these, but at least you can refer back to the beginning of this video. If you're new to bait making, this is the first in our beginner series of building wooden baits. And I realize that a lot of people don't have bandsaws and table saws, big belt sanders, table belt sanders, all those tools. A lot of us didn't have them. I'm fortunate enough that I do have them, but I know a lot of people you might live in an apartment, you might live in this place where you don't have a place to put all those tools, but you can still make some baits. So what I got here is a basic bait making kit. These are the things that you're going to need if you want to make a bait and you don't have a lot of space. Now, I do suggest get yourself a nice little table. This table I'm using right here is got drawers in it, and it was $150 at Harbor Freight. It's got a little vise on the end. You'll see me use that in a second when we cut our board out. But basically, you can do everything here, make a bait. I'm pretty sure I got everything here. Hopefully I haven't missed nothing, but yeah, you can refer back to the beginning of this to see all the tools and exactly what you're going to need. But we're going to go through all this. I'm going to drag it off to the side, and we're going to get started making a simple balsa bait. Simple balsa bait. All right, so give me a second. Let me get all this out of the way, and I'll bring you right back, and we'll get started. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is a piece of balsa wood, and I got this at the Hobby Lobby. It's 1 by 2 by 12. It was $5.49. Take this little pen out of there. Okay, these are all my templates that I'm going to be making, or actually I've already got them made, but I'm going to share them with you. If you want to make this bait, I will give you this template. I'll give it to you in 2 different ways. So if you have a Cricut, you can just download it and you can cut out your little template just like that on the Cricut. That's what I did. I made all these on Cricuts. All my templates are on Cricut. So I cut them out, and I had these little, I think this is basswood or maybe balsa. This is basswood because it's a little more sturdy than balsa. So I cut these out on my Cricut. So that way I got guides for everything. And like I said, I'll put links to it. I'll put the files with links to the where the files are, where you can download these templates. Okay. All right. So we're just going to use a 4-inch piece of this piece of balsa here, and I've already measured it off just to kind of speed it up a little bit. And so I'm going to show you how I can cut this out. Now, obviously, like I said, I have a miter saw, bandsaw, all those tools, but I want to do a video, the basic video for a beginner, how you can make a balsa bait on your own, just using tools, basic tools. All right. So we'll go over those, but I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to show you how I cut this out. Okay. So let me turn the camera over here. On this table I've got from Harbor Freight, it's got a little wooden vise on it. Pretty cool little table. And I really like it for doing my baits and stuff down here, because just to cut this little piece of balsa wood, I don't have to run out to the garage and fire up the saw and all that stuff. And sometimes it's cold out there anyway when the winter comes around, so I like to be able to just do things right here. And this little vise, it's not very heavy duty, but it holds a piece of wood in there. The saw I'm just using this Irwin. It's a double-sided. It's got fine cut on it, and it's got a rip cut on it for going across grain. So just get you one of them, or let's see, I have a little saw here that you can also use. This was in an X-Acto kit that I bought, and it had a little saw in there, and that'll cut right through balsa wood too, and you don't need a big old saw. There actually comes with 2 different sizes, but anyway, I like this. It's quick. It's got the fine teeth on it, so I can cut this out real quick. Just a couple pulls broke. And we're done. We got it cut out. Okay, rough, but that's okay. We're carving it all off anyway. All right. Okay, let's take our template and let's draw out our bait. First thing we're going to do is find the centers of our block. So we're at 5. We're going to go 2.5. 2.5. Put a line. And see. This way we're at 10. So we're going 5. Like so. Okay, we're going to take our template here, and we've already got the centers marked on there. I'm just going to line that up like so, and we're going to trace that. And then we're going to put a little mark where our bill is right there. Okay, lay this one on here. Put our eye on there. All right, now this little guide that came with my set has a protractor on it. All right, so I can line that protractor up, and I can see I'm at a 20-degree angle. So that's what we're going to do this one at, 20 degree. Put a little mark right there. And then if I line this up with my center, line this up with my 20-degree mark, I can put my bill slot on there, just like so. Okay, and you know, it's adjustable. I do them at different angles. For this particular bait, this one runs really good at this angle for the size and the weight and everything that we're putting into it. So that's a good way to start that. All right, and before we go much further and take all the sides off, first we're going to take a little bit of this off, just because we don't need to go all the way down in there, just till we get to our line. All right, and I'm going to bring this over to my vise over here. I'll line this guy up. Get my saw. And give myself another straight line across here, which I've done this so many times that I don't really need it, but just for your reference, let's put a straight line right there, just to help you line it up. And I also know that I stopped right there at the end of my mark. That's where I want to stop my bait, or my lip. Use the fine one. And cut all the way down. So, we're back over here. So the lip that I'm using is a circuit board lip, and if you use that saw, it fits perfect in that slot, perfect tightness. All right, So that's how it works out. And I got these from, I think either Jan's Netcraft or Barlow's. I want to say Barlow's. So check out Barlow's Tackle. They deliver really fast. I love using Barlow's. So got our slot cut in there. Let's drill our eye hole in there, and we'll be ready to carve this guy. All right, so for the eye hole, I'm going to drill a little pilot hole. And one thing is good to have is this little thumbtack board thing. It helps you put a little center dot right in your eye, right there. And let me find my little bit. I got a little bit here, and just run that in there just to make sure that my eye comes up in the exact same spot on the other side. So make sure you're straight. I got this drill at Wally's for like 20 bucks, I think, because I wanted one that I could keep down here and wouldn't have to run out to the garage and get my drill every time. Okay, there's my eye holes spot. Another reason I like to use these little rubber mats is because I can drill down in it, and if I drill, I don't drill holes all in my table. I can cut on it, all that stuff. It's just this floor mats you can buy at your Home Depot or Lowe's. So yeah, we're there. We're ready to start carving, I think. So I'll put you on pause for a minute, get my stuff ready, and we'll carve this guy out. Okay, we got this guy all sanded out. Okay, so next we're going to put some holes in it. I'm going to show you how to make line ties, how I make my line ties. But first, I didn't cover what sandpaper I was using. So I used, this is 80 grit, just to rough it out. And you got to be careful with 80 because it will eat away at it quick. So you got to be careful, sand it slow. Then I went to 220. Let's see, here's 220 right here. And then I know there's going to be more sanding once I put the super glue and everything on it. So we'll get down to that. I'll be using 320 for final sand, and then I might even touch it up with a little bit of 2000. Just gives that balsa wood that smooth finish. It's pretty easy to sand, so be careful. Okay, so let's see. I got to put some marks on here, and I got to make line ties. So give me a second to grab all my stuff, and we'll get right back to marking things out. Okay, so one of them little tools I like to use is this little set I got from Amazon, and this particular one's got a center finder on it, so it helps me out a lot. And you just find your center and then you put your mark on there. So what I did was I went back and drilled a little tiny hole right there on the center, dead center on that 0, so I can just go here, line it up on my center, and take my Sharpie and stick it through there and put a little dot, and then I know where my center mark is. Okay, the other thing is I like to use these little push pins before I drill, is just take one of these little push pins, and this works pretty good on balsa wood and basswood both, and then just push you a little starter hole down in there. That'll keep your bit lined up and keep you going straight in. So I already got those all marked off, and look, I dinged it already, so I'm gonna have to clean that up a little bit with the, but so yeah, another trick you can do is a carver's trick, is you find your center spot, hold your finger against the bait, and then just drag your finger down the sides and draw you a line. It's not perfect, but you can always go back and flip it over this way and check it and see that you're in the center. And down in the bow here, you're not going to probably get it perfect, but mostly I'm looking for centers here, 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 and also I find the center on my bill. And I don't remember if I said this in the beginning, but this bill, I took the scissors and clipped this off. I have to check the video, see if I showed that, but I took the scissors and clipped that off so I can line it up better. And then I put a little dot on there. Helps me find the center and keep this center, because with balsa wood baits, you really got to keep everything balanced in center. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I got a little tiny bit right here. I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes in and just go real slow. Take it straight in. And I go pretty deep because I like to get my line ties as deep as I can without hitting my weights or anything like that. And then right here, I always find the center of where the top of my bait is. And I know I'm going to sand a little bit more off of that, but I find the center between there and my bill. Now this will change just based on your baits, how you want to do them. Gives it different action if you put it higher or lower. But for this particular bait, I'm just going straight in the center right there. Okay, and then my hook tie right here. And I know a lot of guys make these baits on YouTube, but I just like to show you my methods, the way I like to do it. And I try to keep everything consistent, so that way when I'm making bait to bait, if I use the same methods every time, you know, as far as guides and holes and lines and everything, comes out pretty easy. I don't have to do a lot of tuning on it. So yeah, there we go. We got the holes in there. Let me get my stuff ready. We'll make our line ties, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, now we're going to make our line ties, and I already went on and made a few because I wanted to show you some differences in how you can do this and with the tools I use. Okay, for For line ties, I mean, I can do it a bunch of different ways. You can put a drill bit in, a drill bit in and take it out, or a nail. There's all kinds of things. But what I like is this little tool that I got at Walmart. Okay, and you can see it's got a cone shape little tips on it. All right, and this works cool because I can make, with just this tool, I can make different size line ties. I can go as big as I want, or I can go small ones. I thought I had a great big one here somewhere, but I don't know what happened to it. There it is. Okay, or I can make a big one if I'm making big baits. Okay, so let me show you how I use it. First, I'm going to take and bend this wire. Actually, you don't even have to. You can just lay it in there where you want, whatever size you want. Get it kind of centered in there, and then bend it over. All right, and always start off with a bigger piece of line tie than you think you need, because, you know, you can always trim it off. And it gives you a little more to work with. I don't know, these are probably about 3.5, maybe 4 inches long. Okay, then I'm going to take that and put that in my drill. And like I said, I know you guys have seen many guys on YouTube make these things, but I just wanted to show you my little method. I'm just showing you one. I already got the other ones all made. Sometimes I'll make all these if I'm just sitting around watching TV or watching other bait builders or whatever, bait painters. I'll just sit there and make line ties if I know I got a bunch of baits coming up. But this way I don't have to nail into nothing. I don't have to have a vise or anything. All right, because if I try to put it in that wooden vise, it's just going to chew it all up. All right, so always go forward. All right, and get it tied in there. See, make sure it stays in there. And sometimes I'll twist it a little bit, but go slow. And as soon as you see it start to bend a little bit, you know you're done. All right, that's all you need. And I'll show you one where if you go this far, you've went too far, tightened it too much. All right, so this one right here I did just for you to see. You can see I tightened it way too much. It started twisting and bending. I could probably use it, straighten it all back out, but you know, I don't need to use it. I got a bunch of them. All right, so there's all my line ties. And you can do little ones, for like small ones for the nose, if you just want to put a small split ring on there, or if you want to put bigger split rings on there, you can do bigger sizes. So all right, so that's my method. I'm going to get the super glue and we'll glue these in and put our weights in. Okay, for the line ties, I usually like to use something a little stronger than just the thin super glue. So I like this Loctite gel, or I use the Gorilla Glue. As you guys know, I use that on my eyes. Both of these work really well. And I'm just going to put a couple drops in there. Then I'm going to put a couple drops on my line tie. Then with this balsa wood, it's pretty easy. You don't have to worry about your hole being real big or real small, and using like a drill or something to drive it in. So this balsa wood's pretty soft, and once you get it in there to the depth, you can twist it and kind of thread it in real quick. Then I use my lines right there that I put on to center me up. Make sure I'm nice and straight. And I'm going to let that sit. All right, go ahead and put the other one on. All right, squirt a little gel down in there. This Loctite is the gel one. And it doesn't make a big mess. That's one nice thing about it. All right. I always work on this mat. That way I don't get glue all over my table. And I got a bunch of these mats, so I can always just throw it away if it gets too bad. Push it in there. You'd be surprised how strong these line ties really are. I think it was Zemtex that did kind of a story on line ties and stuff. I'm not sure if it was him, but I think it was. And then sometimes I'll just do a little drop right there if I didn't think I got enough on there, especially on this back one. All right, I'm going to let that dry for a minute. Now the third one, we're going to be using some weight here. So the third one's going to go inside this weight. All right, and with balsa wood being so buoyant, you need a lot of weight. I mean, when I say a lot, I mean I'm shooting for this bait to be anywhere from like 22 to 25 grams. Okay, almost a full ounce. Okay, and I don't want it to sink all the way down. I kind of want it to stay at the top. If it's got a slow sink to it, that's okay. But I want enough weight. Really, I'm looking for enough weight just to keep it balanced in the water, so it's not sitting all crooked and stuff. So let me get ready and get my weights ready. I draw these out. I'm using little, I guess you call them bell sinkers, and I just drill that out a little bit with the bit I use, and I'll put that in there like that, and then I'll put a little super glue on that, and I'll put a little super glue on that, and then I'll let that dry and before I put it up in there. So let me get that ready and I'll bring you back. Okay guys, we're back. It's the next day. If you heard my phone ring in the background, I had to take off. The wife's battery died at the hospital. Her mom's been in the hospital, so her battery was dead, and I had to go take care of that issue. But we're back on this bait. So I apologize if I say something that I've already said, because it's been the next day and I'm not sure what all I said. So anyway, I got my weight glued on to my little line tie holder here, and we're going to drill our holes. I got it centered, and I took my push pin, pushed my hole down in there. It's really good with balsa wood, especially, to push your little starter hole in there, because it'll want to walk on you at first, and when you're using your Forstner bit. And we're going to put our bead in there. So we're going to do all that and seal everything up. And I'll show you a couple options. For the hook tie, we're definitely going to use baking soda and super glue. But for sealing the other ones, we're going to use some wood putty. It's just a little easier to sand, but I don't know if I would trust it holding this weight in. I'm afraid it would probably break out the wood putty. Even though I'm going to epoxy it and everything, I want my hook ties to be strong, because this balsa wood's really soft. So another thing is too, when you're sanding your bait down, you use like a 220 and then go to like a 320. If you can use 60 to get it roughed in, but man, you got to be careful. 60 will take away a lot really quick, and your bait will become unbalanced real quick, real easy. So just kind of take the roughness off with the 60, but go back with like a 220, even a 320. I usually, my final sand is like a 320. But be careful, because you can quickly change the shape of your bait with this balsa wood. A little different when you're making them out of basswood or poplar, something like that. But this balsa wood sands so easy, and it dents so easy. So you got to kind of be careful that you don't, like even your fingernail will put a mark in there. So just be careful with that, and you should be good to go. All right, so I got my little 1/4-inch Forstner bit in here. We're gonna drill this hole for the rattle. I'm gonna try not to go all the way through, but we got to go pretty deep to get that whole rattle down in there. We kind of want the rattle to sit in the middle, and I think I'm pretty good if I go down to it. No big deal. If you go all the way through, you just got to patch the other side. That's all. I just try not to have to do more work than necessary. But I couldn't remember if I told you, but I get the rattles at Jan's, Netcraft, or Barlow's. Either one of them's got them. And I like to put them towards the back, so that way, because the tail's mostly what you kind of get a little more of a rattle if it's more towards the back, because the tail of the bait's what's going to be making the motion. And yeah, it kind of makes it a little more rattle a little more, I think. And like I said, I'm using a quarter inch Forstner, but you still got to clean it out a little bit just because that thing fits tight in there. And if you push it in and you don't have it in all the way far enough, it's going to be heck getting it back out of there. So wallow your hole out a little bit. The basswood's or the balsa wood's pretty soft, so it pushes right in there. But you got to make sure that you're deep enough that you can that you got enough to cover your hole. You don't want a big hump sticking out right there. And you got to be careful pushing on it with too much something really hard, because it will crack on you. So I don't know if you can see, it's kind of sitting down behind the bait now, and that's good. I just really like these little rattles. I think they do really good, especially once you got them sealed up. And like I said, I put mine towards the back, so that way it gets a little more rattle. And they're not very heavy, so it really doesn't affect the balance or the weight or anything. And if you push it in to where you got it in the center, so you can see I kind of mashed it with my fingernail a little bit. But I'm not done with this sanding anyway, so yeah. Get it down in there, get it so you can't see it sticking out, and leave yourself a little bit to put some wood putty on it. Or you can use the super glue. Super glue's fine. Super glue and baking soda is fine. It's just a little more sanding. And like I said, with the balsa wood, it's easy to get carried away. Now for the weight holes, I gotta change bits. So let me get my other bit in here, and this is the 3/8 bit, and I gotta go all the way down to my tape mark. And go slow, because it will chew this balsa wood up if you're not careful. I just like to go slow till it gets started and push it in. It'll grab too and take off pretty quick, so you'll be a lot deeper than you think. There again, kind of wallow it out a little bit. And the nice thing about the balsa is once you get it deep enough, you can just push it in there, and it'll push its way in if you got to go a little deeper. I could go up to a 1/2 inch. I got a 1/2 inch spade bit. And that would actually work a little better. But for this one, being it's a hook tie, I'd rather it be a little tight. See if I can spade it out just a little bit. You can see what it does to it. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this Over this line tie off some. There we go. Okay. So now that I got the hole in there good, I can give it a few twists and get it squared up before I seal it. And I know it's going to be pretty tight. Okay. Line up my hole. And if you look down your bait, you want to get all your ties pretty square with each other. And I think I'm pretty good with that. Okay, so ideally I'm shooting for around 25 to 28 grams. I'd like this to be about 1 ounce. Because of the buoyancy of balsa wood, I don't want this to sink to the bottom. I want it to just kind of hover at the top, just a little bit at the top of the water line. So here's one that I did earlier that is 29 grams. Okay, and that's with super glue, weight, and everything in it. That's one. Actually, that's a bigger weight in there. So this one here is at 19 right now. So best thing you do is you can weigh out some split shots. Okay, that would bring me up to 20. That bring me up to 30, which is a little heavy. I like the slow drop in the water. If I use another big one, that puts me up to like 34. So what I usually do, and it always depends on how much I carve off the bait, how much, bait size. You really should measure each one. But if you can find a kind of a roundabout place where you want to be, and for me is like 25 to 28 grams total weight on my bait for this balsa wood, the action that I like. See, I just moved it and it's 20. So I'm gonna go with 2 of these little split shots. It's gonna put me at 25. By the time I put super glue, hooks, all that on it, I'm gonna be up around 28, 29 grams, which is perfect. Time I get paint, epoxy, all that on it, it's gonna be perfect. Instead of using the big old hole, we're gonna go back to the we're gonna go back to the the 3/8 one, I'm sorry, and we're gonna put one more hole in. And then we're gonna drop our weights in there. Okay, it puts me at 23. Probably another one of these. Maybe the smaller one. 26. So let's see what a smaller one takes me to. This one's a little smaller. 25. I think we'll go with this smaller one. So I'm gonna take that down just a little bit deeper. And I'm going to put my little weight in first, because I want majority of my weight at the bottom. So since I had two different size weights, I'm putting the heavier weight at the bottom of the hole, if that makes sense to you. And that way it'll keep the weight towards the bottom of the bait. All right, we got 25. I'm good with that. If I do 25 without any super glue and epoxy and paint and stuff, I'm good. I really don't want it to exceed 30. So we'll check it, do a swim test and all that stuff once we get it sealed up. All right, so I'll probably fast forward through this process because you guys have seen plenty of bait makers use baking soda and super glue. It's pretty much the same process as everybody else uses. Now I do like to put some super glue down in there first, just to kind of get it down in the hole and hold it in place. And I'm using the Super Star Bond, super fast, super thin super glue. So I'm going to soak that down in there. And it also helps seal up the hole a little bit. And I'll let that dry for a minute. Kind of let it bond before I seal it up. And then we'll put our bill in there. That's what I didn't want to do. Then we'll put our bill in there and we'll be ready to go. Let her smoke a little bit. Okay, we'll let that set for a minute. It's pretty good and stuck in there now. That way my hook wouldn't move, or my hook tie wouldn't move, and my weights won't fall out of there. So, all right, so for the bottom, we're going to use baking soda and super glue. I always like to get the super glue off, or the baking soda. Tap it down in there. See how it falls down in there? And then that way I can, I try to do this as clean as possible so I got less sanding. Pretty much is the whole gist of it all. And on the sides, I like to, on these balsa baits, I like to use wood putty because it's a little easier to sand. And as I said earlier, you can really change the size of your bait if you get crazy having to sand a bunch of hard ass super glue off of there. But then we'll kind of dust it off a little bit. The less I can keep from getting the super glue in there, the better. At least for me. Like I said, I hate sanding my bait down to try to get all that super glue and baking soda off of there. And it is going to sink a little bit, but it's all this dust on the side that gets hard when it gets a little wet. Even though I'm going to seal it anyway, I still don't want to have to sand all that baking soda off of there. These baits are a little less forgiving than using regular balsa wood or basswood or something. Alright, let me get this dusted off here real quick. Now, I usually let that dry real good, and then I'll come back and do another little layer if it needs a little more. I want to sand some of it down because I don't want a little divot in my bait, and I don't want a big hump either, so I'll let that sit for a minute. And we'll dust a little more on it. But yeah, these are fun baits. I mean, I'm taking my time, but usually I can bust 5 or 10 of them out in a couple hours. Like I said, this one here is pretty much ready for paint, except where I nicked it a couple times there, bouncing it around. But you can see up here is where I used super glue to seal that in. But those little glass rattles work really good, especially in the water, man. You can almost hear them when you're fishing them. Okay, this one thinks good. Might have to put a little bit more on this one. Let's dust it a little more. I apologize if this video is a little longer. I'm going to definitely speed up the bait building videos because you don't need to know all the stuff over and over and over again. But for this first one, I'm just trying to get you through what I like to do. I know there's a lot of bait makers on YouTube, but I just like to show you how I do mine. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'll bring you back. We'll putty in the glass rattle. I'll sand it all down. First I'll seal it and then sand it all down. And I'll bring you back. We'll put the lip in. Show you how I get my lip in squared up. And I think we'll paint it in a separate video. Alright, so for the rattle, I'm gonna use this Pro Bond wood filler, and the reason I use this is because it's, like I said, it's easier to sand. You know, it's just I switch around. A lot of times I do use the super glue and baking soda, especially on harder baits, harder wood baits. But this is just another option for you. If you don't want to mess around. Now, like I said, I haven't really tested it on the hook ties and stuff, so till I do that, I'm not going to say put it on there. But it works great on these rattles because it's sandable and it's paintable, and I can pretty much do it with my finger, and I can get it to where I don't even really have to hardly sand it at all, which is good for these baits because, like I said, you can sand off more than you need to on these balsa baits if you're not careful. And these are easier to sand. This stuff's easier to sand. And I'm going to epoxy them anyway, so epoxy's pretty strong. Alright, that's all there is to that. Just fill that up. The downside is it does take a little longer to dry, you know, but I'm going to paint this in a later video, so no big deal. I got drying time to let it dry. And I'm not going to bore you with sanding and sealing and all that. Alright, so we're going to put our... Actually, I am going to use it again. We're going to put our bill in there. Now what I like to do is use my little center finder here on this guide, and I'll find my center of my bill, which is right there. And I got a little hole in there. I'm trying to hold it up so you guys can see it, but I'm gonna have to set it down. Alright, so I got a little hole in there. Right in the center. And I'll just put a little dot right there. Alright, now when I go to line it up, I just line that little dot up by eye. And get it centered in there the best I can by eye. And that looks pretty darn good. See, scoot the bottom over just a little bit, tilt it. I think I'm happy with that. Looks pretty even. Soak it in with some super glue, and then I'll use the wood putty to fill in the rest of the crack right there. And these are the circuit board bills. I got them from either Barlow's or Jan's. It just depends on when I order stuff, instead of paying 2 different shipping charges. If I need bills, I'll just order them when I order split rings or other lower parts. Okay, so we'll go ahead and soak this guy down a little bit. And we'll sand it with some 320. Alright, I'll bring you back when I got it all sanded and cleaned up. Okay guys, here's the finished bait. As you can see, you can barely see that. And once I get the white on there, get it painted up, it's all sanded and cleaned up, ready for paint. And like I said, we'll do the painting in a different video. But I hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the painting coming up, and we'll see you soon with that. I'll do that probably tomorrow, actually. I'll paint it up, get it up right away. Alright, so appreciate all the subscribers. Hope you guys like these wooden baits. I'm going to start doing a bunch of different bait styles. Swim baits, glide baits, balsa baits, big baits, all that stuff. So hope you guys enjoy. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get notified when we put up the next video. And always remember, stay crusty, my friends.